I want to tell you something, Chevra, that we met the first time, remember, in a bookstore in the old city in Jerusalem.
Really?
I came into the bookstore because I had given them my books, to sell, so I wanted to see what's going on. And there I see someone, and he's browsing, and he's looking for Rabbi Dalfin's books. Yeah, I'm telling you. That's how we met, and we stayed friends. And
Wow.
he endorsed some of my books recently. I endorsed a book of his, and we share warm times together, and friends. That's what friends are. Friends are to talk about meaningful things, and sometimes they're great, and sometimes it's hardships, but you talk about it because you're friends. Chaim L'chaim.
Wow.
Before I tell you what a farbrengen is, attempt to tell you a story. Rabbi says I should tell stories. You'll forgive me, I'm going to take this off because it's a little hot here.
Yeah, by the fire.
Yeah, I told him I didn't want to sit by the fire. He pulled me by the fire. I have enough fire all day. Anyway, so...
Here in Florida, this is the coldest night of the year. You got a fireplaces out.
The story will demonstrate that there are no coincidences. Everything has a meaning and a purpose. This happened with my daughter, and it's in one of my books called Neshama Stories. I just reprinted it. It was called originally Soul Journeys, and we just reprinted it as Neshama Stories. Neshama is the Hebrew word for soul stories. In this book, I talk about reincarnation, transmigration, past life regression therapy, and things like that, out-of-body experiences, stories that I believe are true and very important. So one of these stories happened with my daughter and myself, and the story is like this. 1993, at the time I was living in Los Angeles, and my grandmother, who was a survivor, Hinda Freda was her name, from Poland, she passed away. She was in her mid-80s, and she was very ill at the end, and it was just this day, that day, her life was coming to an end. I had, at that time, 3 children, my oldest a boy and then 2 girls, and then she was my 3rd daughter. Subsequent to that, we had another 3, so we have 6 daughters, thank God, and 1 boy. My oldest is a Bchora boy. Anyway, yeah, that's another story, but not for now, because I can't give you here all night with stories. Anyway, before prayer, before davening, Hasidic Jews immerse in what's called a mikveh. It's not a mikveh for women when they go to the mikveh. It's a Hasidic practice. Before you pray, you want to remove all, what's the word I'm looking for? What?
Schmutz.
Yeah, but it's not, schmutz, literal schmutz. And you want to prepare yourself for prayer, and when you immerse in the water, submerged completely, the idea is egoless. That's the idea, to accomplish the removal of ego. So when you pray to God, it's pure, not with ego. Okay. So I go to the mikveh, and my wife calls, not my wife, someone calls me, tells me, no. The baby's born in the middle of the night. I go to the mikveh, and I'm going to go to the Torah to give her a name. So, I was thinking of this name and that name, and someone comes running into the mikveh 6:30 in the morning and says, your father called the public phone in the yeshiva where I live in Los Angeles. He's looking for you at 6:37 in the morning. My father's calling me. So you get worried.
Of course.
I come back home. In those days, we still had those message machines, answering machines. I don't know if they were around in your time, but
Yes, they were.
they were. Okay. So it's blinking. I put it on. I put it on. My father, who was from Romania, and I wrote a book about his biography.
Hey.
And I want to tell you, as a parenthetical remark, and I've told this to Dr. Creighton, it is imperative, I'm a writer, that you write your story. And if you can't write your story, your kids should write your story. If you can't get them, hire a writer. You got to get your story done. Everyone has a story. There's no such thing that anyone here doesn't have a story. Everyone has a story, especially those of us who are a little older. You want to leave something to your family and to the world, and you have a story. Anyway, so I wrote up his story. Thank you. And the bottom line is that on the answering machine, my father says, your grandmother just passed away, and surely you'll name her after your grandmother. When I was in the mikveh, I met two scholars, two rabbis, and I was thinking of a name after another grandmother who passed away in 1972.
Wow.
So and her name was Bela. You've heard the name Bela. But I didn't know what the name Bela meant at the time. So I asked these two older gentlemen, rabbis and scholars, do you know what the word Bela means? And they said, one said it means pretty. I don't know how, but that
Bella.
Bela. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful name.
Bella.
But so I was thinking of naming her Bella. But then I got this call from my father saying that your grandmother just passed away, right? So my daughter was born at 1, 2 in the morning in California. My grandmother passed away 5, 6 around in New York, right? What happened over here? The sun rose before the sun set.
Oh boy. I see what's happening.
It's happening.
One in California, one in New
That,
York.
but it's not just about the California, New York. It's that my daughter was born, and only afterwards did my grandmother pass away.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And so my father says, and I agreed with him. You know, now I'm not calling her Bella. I'm calling her after my grandmother. This grandmother just passed away. Hinda Freda is her name. And thank God she's a wonderful young woman in Tel Aviv today, leading an international school, international kindergarten and nursery and program, with a degree from what's that liberal college in New York? Professional up in I forget the name. It's a very big in social work. She's a social worker. Forget the name. Will come to me. Anyway, the bottom line is, this is the end of the story, that things happen. You could say, well, it's a coincidence. Can I prove to you otherwise? Can anyone prove to you otherwise? No. But boy, is this an interesting coincidence, right? That 3-4 hours later, when this girl is born, and I'm thinking a different name, and then at the right moment, God says, no, I want her to pass away, not yesterday, and not tomorrow, but this day. So she was born on the same day as my grandmother passed away.
Wow. Wow.
That's a soul experience. That's a mystical experience. You can't really explain that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's heavenly.
That's right.
And guess what? These things happen daily. All you have to do is take the wax out of your ears and unplug. Right? We got to unplug. We have so much stuff clogging our heads, especially our hearts. We have to unplug and let God, Hashem, filter through us. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.